Now that we have validated that our theory that individual words inside of a review are predictive of that review's positive or negative label, now it's time to transform our data sets into numbers in a way that respects this theory and this belief so that our neural network can search for correlation in this particular way. So what we want to be able to do is we want to present the words, as input to the neural network in such a way that it can look for correlation to make the correct positive or negative prediction on the output. So I think the most natural way to start here is to simply count each word and input those counts as inputs to the neural network. Pretty simple, well defined, and I think that should have correlation with the thing we want to predict. Now, as far as predicting positive and negative, obviously neural nets can't predict the word positive. Well, some more advanced ones can, but that's not what we're trying to do here. Instead, we're going to represent positiveness and negativeness as a number, where positive is the number 1 and negative is the 0. Now, the reason that we're doing this in one neuron and kind of giving it, two sides that the network has to decide between is that we know that positive and negative are mutually exclusive. We're not going to train our network to ever say that a review is both positive and negative. And by modeling it this way, we can make these two different labels mutually exclusive. This reduces the number of ways that a neural network can make a mistake, which reduces the amount that it has to learn and actually helps it learn this particular pattern. In some ways, some other sentiment data sets, for example, have 5 different output labels for different granularities. So in the IMDb data set, for example, can have 5 stars. You can predict 1 star to 3 stars to 5 stars. And it turns out that sometimes it can actually hurt the neural network and make it more difficult to predict if it actually has to predict which star was most likely, because it allows it to sort of make double positive predictions, a 3 and a 4, where the 4 is incorrect and the 3 is correct, but they share a lot of signals to create ambiguity in the network. But in this case, because we only have 2 labels, we can force the network to have to choose between the 2 of them, thus reducing the number of ways that it can make a mistake. One of the themes throughout this kind of tutorial is going to be making the prediction as easy as possible and framing the problem in such a way where it's as easy as possible for the neural net to be able to make this prediction. What do we need, and what is Project 2 going to be about? Project 2 is about setting up 2 functions that take our input and output data and transform them into the appropriate 1-0 binary representation, or I guess on the output, and then the counts on the input. So in this case, the first function I want you to build takes a review, extracts the words from the review, and then counts them and puts those counts into a vector. Now that vector has to be constant length. It needs to be the length of the vocabulary. And then I want you to create another function that just maps positive and negative to a 1 or 0. So go ahead and create those functions, and then I'll show you how I create them, and we can compare our notes. See you then.